I'm Laura and welcome to the Chicago Craft Club YouTube channel. With Valentine's Day right around the corner, I wanted to show you 3 of my favorite ways to craft roses. These can just make like a really pretty decoration to have around, or if you put a bunch together, it can be a really nice gift in itself. So we're gonna start by walking through these tissue paper ones and felt. These are super easy to make. Anybody can do this. And then we'll finish with a crochet pattern, also really pretty. This is a little bit more of an intermediate pattern, but as long as you have the basic crochet stitches down, you should be able to tackle this one as well. So let's get into it. All right, for this first method, we're gonna take a single piece of tissue paper and we're gonna use this to cut out 2 different shapes that we'll use for the petals. The first one will just be a long rectangular strip, and this will be used for the more tightly wound petals in the middle of the rose. So fold your tissue over once, cut out a 1/2 inch to maybe 1 inch strip all the way down. With the rest of the tissue, we're gonna fold it over a few times just to make sure we're cutting a bunch of layers at once, and then cut out a square that's maybe 3 to 4 inches on each side. Once we have the square, we're going to start cutting out this cloud shape to make the outer petals. So we're going around cutting these semicircles, and this is super forgiving. It actually looks better if it's a little uneven. Just make sure you have at least 4 to 5 of those semicircles all the way around. To start assembling it, we'll take that long strip and we'll fold it over one time to make it a little thinner, but also just to make sure the top has a nice folded edge. We're gonna attach the stem to this and we don't wanna poke the stem through the tissue paper. So cut the stem down to whatever size you want, add a little hot glue, and then just attach it to one end of the strip. Once that's good to go, we'll just start rolling it and adding a little bit of hot glue every now and then to secure it. It's also helpful just to take your hands and crinkle the tissue a little bit as you go. It helps just make it a little bit more organic looking. Adding the outer petals is as easy as just taking the stem and poking it through those cloud shapes that we cut out, pushing it up to the top, and securing it with hot glue. Again, you can kind of crinkle it a little bit and adjust it to get the look you want. You'll just keep repeating this until you get the fullness that you want for your rose. The last thing we'll do on this one is just add a little bit of cardstock to put at the base of the flower. So we'll cut a little cloud out of that green cardstock and cut a hole so we can put our stem through. Push it to the top, secure it with hot glue, and then you're done. For the felt roses, we're actually going to start with a pattern. I love this one from howjoyful.com. It'll be linked in our description, but it's free and you can go check it out and download. So just like for the tissue roses, there's 2 shapes that we'll be using, one for the outer petals and then one for the inner part. On the left, this is what you see for the outside, and then the right is the inside. And there's a bunch of different sizes you can choose from depending on what size rose you want. For mine, I'm choosing size 3, so I cut out both of those shapes. The pattern also lets you know how many strips of the outer petal pattern that you need to cut. So for a size 3, you need 2 of those. So I'm laying out my felt. I'm going to take the pieces I just cut out and trace them with the marker. I'll do 2 rows of the ones that will be for the outer petals, and then 1 for the inner petals, and then I'll get those good to go. I found that with this pattern, it's sometimes hard to get your scissors in between every single petal, especially depending on what size you do. And when I made the finished product, you honestly couldn't tell a difference. So I would just focus on getting the triangle cutouts at the bottom nice, and then just like the general shape across the top, and it'll come out looking great. So we're gonna start with the piece that's used for the inner petals. So at the bottom, you'll see these 3 triangle cutouts. When you pinch those together, they actually make like a petal shape, like a concave shape. So we're gonna take our hot glue gun and we're gonna put a strip in between each of those cutouts and then pinch them so we make 3 petals at the bottom of this strip. Once we have those good to go, we're going to roll this to make the inner part of the rose, and we're going to start at the side that's opposite to where we were just working. So down at the flat part, we're just going to roll it and add a little hot glue as we go. Once we get to the part with the petals, we're going to make sure that we focus the glue on the base of the rose so that those petals have a chance to open up still at the top. So you'll see here I start putting glue closer to the left side of the piece I'm holding. Now we can do the same thing with both of our strips for the outer petals. So every single of these triangle cutouts will become a petal. We're going to take our glue, put a strip, and pinch every single one together. Once that's ready, we'll go ahead and attach it to the piece we already made. Again, we're focusing the glue at the bottom of the flower so that the petals can still open up at the top. And then we'll repeat this one more time for the last row of outer petals. Once everything's attached, you can just kind of adjust the petals and make them flare out a little bit more. This wasn't part of the pattern, but I wanted to add a little leaf that goes in between the rose and the stem. So I just cut out a square of green felt and then drew this kind of star shape. You can also just freehand this, cutting out a triangle on each side. Add some hot glue and then just attach it to the base. Last step is just getting your stem wire and securing it to the rose. You can trim it to size and then you're done. Our last method is going to be a crochet rose. This is definitely more of an intermediate pattern. We do use a few types of stitches. So I'm not going to explain exactly how to do each stitch in this video, but I'll walk you through the steps and how to assemble it all together. So to get started, we just did a slip knot, put the yarn on the hook, and chain 49. For row 2, we're going to do single crochet all the way back. So it'll be 48 single crochet stitches all the way down. For the third row, we're going to be doing 3 double crochets and then skipping a stitch all the way down. But to start, we'll start by chaining 2 and then do 2 double crochets in that first stitch, and then the rest will be repetitive down the row. So we start by chaining 2, and then in that first stitch, we'll do 2 double crochets, since the chain acts like our first double crochet stitch. Then we'll skip the next stitch, and then in the one after that, we'll do 3 double crochets. We're going to continue this pattern all the way down. So skip a stitch, 3 double crochet, skip a stitch, 3 double crochet. Once you're done with that row, you'll see your work start to curl, and you should see kind of how we'll end up rolling this to make the rose. We have one more row to do, and that'll be to make the petals. So we'll be making these semicircle shapes all the way across. So to make the top of the petals, we're gonna do a chain, a double crochet, 2 double crochets, and then a chain. and then we'll connect it with a slip stitch. So we made the chain. In this first stitch we'll do a double. In the second stitch we'll do 2 doubles, 1 more chain, and then connect it with a slip stitch. We'll continue that pattern all the way down. So you can start seeing the petals take shape at the top. Work that all the way down to the end. You can do a slip stitch and pull through, and then you're done with the petals. Before we assemble it, we're going to make the bottom part that goes in between the flower and the stem. So you could do a magic circle for this one, but because we're hot gluing it and putting a stem on the bottom, it's really not necessary. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to put my yarn on the hook, and I'm just going to chain 2. Then you're going to go into that first chain and do 10 single crochets into that first chain. It'll start getting a little loose, but that's okay, we're going to tighten it up later. Once you finish your 10 single crochets, you're going to just attach it with a slip stitch to the first stitch you made. This will form a circle, and if you tug on that bottom string, you should be able to tighten it and close that gap. Now for this next round, we're going to go around and do 2 single crochets in every stitch. At the end, you should have 20 stitches all the way across in your circle. You can pull that string again if you need it to be tight, and now you have your base. Our next step is to make leaves that come out from the side. So we're going to start by just chaining 5. And then this part gets a little confusing, but we're basically building stitches that get wider and wider as we get down. So in the first chain from your hook, you're going to do a slip stitch. In the next chain, you're going to do a single crochet. In the next, you're going to do a half double crochet. And then in the last chain, you're going to do a double crochet. So now you have this leaf that you can attach to the base. We're going to attach it by skipping 1 stitch and then doing a slip stitch in the one after that. To put some space in between the leaves, we're going to do a few more slip stitches. So we'll do 3 more slip stitches before we start the next leaf. Now that we're ready to do the next leaf, we'll do the same thing again. We're going to chain 5 and then work our way down. So starting with that slip stitch, we'll do a single crochet, a half double crochet, and a double crochet. We'll skip a stitch on the base and then attach with a slip stitch. 3 more slip stitches to put space in between the leaves, and then repeat all the way around. When you're done, you'll have a shape that looks like this. It's a base with 5 leaves that will wrap around our rose. To assemble everything, we're going to pull back out the hot glue gun. But first, we just want to make sure our ends are really tight. You don't need to weave them in or anything because you're going to be hot gluing, but I just added some extra knots just to make sure they're secure. You can start on either end and just start rolling it down. Just like with the felt roses, we want to make sure that we focus the hot glue down at the base of the rose so that the top of the petals can open up. To attach our base, we'll do the same thing. We'll tie off the knots, add some hot glue in the middle, and then attach to our rose. If you have a thread that's hanging out the bottom, it's helpful to tuck it up the top so that it'll be hot glued next to the petals. For this rose, I'm actually using a different type of stem wire. This is made of cardboard. It's still flexible, but it's a little stronger. That way it can hold up the weight of the crochet rose. In order to make it green, we're going to cover it in yarn. So I just took some of the green yarn, added a little bit of hot glue to the top, and then you just start wrapping it all the way down. You can add little bits of hot glue as you go, but as long as you make it pretty tight, it should stay secure. This next step is a finishing step only if you're using acrylic yarn. If you're using acrylic yarn and there's a little bit of fuzziness all the way down the stem, you can actually take a lighter and just pass it over the yarn. Don't let it sit on one section too long, please be very careful, but it helps the fuzziness go away and just makes everything look a lot more streamlined. Last step is just attaching the stem to the rose, add a good amount of hot glue, and then make sure it's secure. And now you should have a bunch of beautiful roses. So I hope you try some of these. If you do, please tag us. We'd really love to see them. Our website and our Instagram will be in the description, especially if you are local to the Chicago area. Make sure to check us out. Our main gig is actually hosting in-person meetups. We just get together at local businesses, it's free, and we craft together. It's a really good time. So we hope to see you there. If you're not local, make sure to subscribe. There's lots more craft content coming here as well. So we'll see you next time.